Hi, my name is Heidi Todd, and I'm the Marketing Director for Wisdom Window. And today we are so excited to have Tresta Neal here. Tresta is absolutely amazing, and I'm going to let her talk about all the things that she does that are so incredible. But I've been following her. I've been stalking you. I've been stalking you. Yeah, I've been stalking you. I've been stalking her for about the past year because it was 2 years ago that I decided to homeschool my children, and Tresta has been homeschooling for the past 20 years. So 2 decades, that's a long time. That was not the 90s. That was the 90s.
Yeah, it was the 90s.
Wow, very different world back then when she started this journey. So she has a lot to teach us, and that's why I've been stalking her. So I can kind of get ideas as I work with my own homeschool. So welcome, Tresta.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you here.
So exciting, yeah. I've loved homeschooling. I've been doing it for quite a while. When my son was a little boy, he said, "Mom, I really want to learn," and I'm like, I don't know how to teach you. I don't know what to do. So that's kind of where we started. Yeah.
So really, your oldest is 20. So you've been doing this all along, and so who are you? What do you do? What got you started in all of this? Because you started just homeschooling, but now you have programs and you run conferences and all of these things. So give me kind of the what you do right now, and then I want to go into your backstory a little bit.
Okay. So I am the director of the LDS Homeschool Conference with my husband, and that's in August. And we also do a homeschool boot camp where we teach the principal approach, and we do that 3 times a year. I've also written the theology tree, which is a curriculum that helps put God into all subjects, including math. And then there's other things that I do, like I do Keystone education or Keystone events every month, where I invite people to come in and to share their expertise, and I share that with the community. And I'm just writing some books that I really love. It's all about geometry and about numbers and about the creation. And
now you just said love and geometry in the same sentence. So.
I do. It's my passion.
That's so exciting. Yeah, it's exciting. So you're really involved in doing this, and this is your side business. So you're both homeschooling and running a business.
Yes.
So it is possible to do both, which
yes, it absolutely is possible.
Absolutely is possible. Now, how many kids do you have?
I have 8 children.
8 children.
Yep, my oldest is 20. I have 1 on a mission, and my youngest is 4. So
you have a whole range. So give us your story. What made you decide to homeschool? Because back in the 90s, that was radical. I mean, now it's a little bit trendy. It's kind of for a choice in education, and there's so many resources now. But what was it in your mind that said, all right, we're going to do this? Because committing to homeschooling 8 children all the way through is a big commitment. So what was the story there?
The story is I was not wanting to homeschool at all, like not even on my radar. In fact, when I was in high school, my 2 best friends were pulled out to be homeschooled, and I did not want them to go because like their mom's taking my friends away from me, and I didn't want that at all. So, and then they turned out kind of weird and not very social and stuff, and I'm like, no, homeschool is for the birds. It's just not for me at all. So when I got married, my brother-in-law was homeschooled for 1 year, and that was fine, whatever, that it was good for him. So when my son turned about 3 years old, my husband came to me and he goes, "What do you think about the idea of homeschooling our children?" And I'm like, just at him, I'm like, "You're not serious, right?" And he's like, "No, I really am serious." And I'm like, "No, absolutely not."
And that's unusual. Usually it's mom-led without a lot of dad support.
Exactly.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. So he did not have a very good relationship with his school and stuff. And he was teased quite a bit during school. But no, not me. I was social butterfly, and that was the only thing that get me through it. So I said, no, absolutely no. So for 2 years, he would ask me, "Please, let's homeschool. Just look at it. Just look at it." And he would bring it up in the strangest, weirdest ways. And then he said, "Okay, we're going to Utah." We lived in Idaho at the time. "We're going to Utah. Why don't you just come to a homeschool conference?" And I'm like, "Oh, all right, I could probably do that." And that's where I learned to ask a bunch of questions. And it was Oliver DeMille that was speaking that really changed my life. And I thought, oh, yeah, I could do this. I could do this. And so I did.
Now, to clarify, Oliver DeMille, the DeMilles started Thomas Jefferson
Yes.
Education, which is a a way of homeschooling using the classics.
Yes.
And really spending a great deal of time reading the classics.
Mm-hmm.
We incorporate that a little bit in our homeschool, not 100%, but certainly we read a lot of classics and discuss them, and that's been really beneficial. So when you decide, it's kind of funny because when you decide to make that leap, now you didn't have your kids in school before you made the decision, so it was kind of they turned 5, kindergarten.
Yeah, I'll just try it. I'll just try it out for 1 year. That's what I said.
Try it for 1 year. That's what I said too. So then how did you transition into it? So if there is somebody that, because there's 2 ways to do it. One is to just start from the gate, and the other is when you pull your child from school, and then you're, where are they? What curriculum? What this? It goes into panic mode. So let's talk about both. When you put, because I can speak to the curriculum side. So when you put your children, just directly into homeschool, where they're not going to any other school, did they go to any preschool? Did he do anything like that at all?
No, nothing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it was just
it was just like, okay, we're gonna just make it up as we go. One thing that Oliver said that really changed my life was, he goes, I went through all of college, I graduated from college, and when I was done, I felt like I did not have a good education. And so I had already had 2 degrees in college, and I'd already been married now. Who am I? I've got these degrees, I'm not doing anything with it. And so I thought, okay, I've got to find myself, really, basically. So when my kids were starting out, I'm like, I'm stupid. I have no idea what to teach my kids. And we found these ideas called the Great Brain Projects, where you just do anything, right? You just meet whatever their kid is interested in, you go all out, and then they perform it. And they performed it for it. We lived in a retirement home with my little kids, and we invited all of the elderly people over there. And we had every month we had a Great Brain Project, and my kids shined. They learned about Pluto, was one of my sons' and another one was about fireworks, and another one was about castles, and he made castles out of cardboard and big ones, and he got to talk about it for a half an hour, and he just loved it. And so I had 3 sons and then a daughter, and all of them just shined in those Great Brain Projects, and that's what made it really fun, and we loved it. So that's where we started.
Awesome. Yeah. So for me, I had my son, they were going to be educated. So I got my bachelor's degree at BYU, and like you, I felt like, gosh, education is wasted on the young, because I'm having more fun learning now as an adult than I ever did as a kid. But I grew up in inner city Phoenix, and it was the best school district in inner city Phoenix. So theoretically, the education, should have been stellar. And then I went to high school and went through the IB program. Now, my group we were the guinea pigs for the IB program, but again, this is going to be the best education you could possibly receive, and it will get you into any college. And as guinea pigs, that didn't happen. I felt like I had great teachers. Shout out to Miss Beeler and Miss Braz. They're my friends on Facebook.
Awesome.
I had great teachers, but when I go back and I read papers, from my senior year of high school, I'm like, oh, this is torture to read, and I was in honors IB English.
Wow.
I should have been better. So then when I got into college, it wasn't until maybe my sophomore year of college that I really started to learn how to write. And then I switched majors. I was an English major. I switched to family science, and then my family science professors loved me because I could write. So really, my education was so patched together, but I didn't feel like I had, I didn't see how it all intertwined, until I got to college, which maybe that's how it's supposed to be, but I was determined with my children, no, they're starting out right away. So I literally had my son in 2 different preschools for 3 years, my daughter in 2 different preschools, including Spanish immersion, which is great because now we're learning Spanish, and she's picking it up really quickly because she had an entire semester where all she heard was Spanish at preschool. And then I helped start a charter school. I was on the founding board, and I did enrollment for the charter school, which the year after I left, that my kids were homeschooled, was the #1 charter school in the state. And then just, my daughter went to kindergarten, and she was going to go into first grade and I was going to have ultimate freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Both my kids in school, and I felt that pull.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I started stalking you and Marianne Johnson and the DeMilles. And I started just researching, which is, I think, what homeschoolers have to, or people who pull their kids have to do.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes to you and they say, someone like me, and they say, I'm feeling the pull to homeschool, but my kids are all these ages and all these different grades, I'm overwhelmed by the curriculum choices. What do you tell them?
It's true. There are so many curriculum choices, like an astronomical amount of choices. Yeah. So I like to just say, let's just pull back and just say, what do you love to do? And what do your kids enjoy? What do you want to look at? And yes, stalk the internet, get the idea, find out all of the different pieces and stuff like that. But for the first few months, just love, just sit back and enjoy and have fun.
Everybody has to be deschooled. That's what I found out. The first semester, having any expectations of anything other than kind of panic and chaos that you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I felt. So you have to go through we don't have to sit at desks all day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to look like school.
Yeah. And the kids have to go through that same process.
Yeah.
Because they're like, okay, Mom, it's school time. Where's my desk? Where's my papers? Where's my pens?
That's not how Mrs. So-and-so did it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was difficult.
Yeah. So when I loved just the couch, right? I love that couch. I'd love to sit in the middle and have all my kids around me and just sit at the couch. And so that's why I tell people, just sit down on the couch and read a story. Pick a classic, read it, have fun with it, start picking out the things that they're interested in it, find the science in it, find the math in it. And if you can't, who cares? Just read it.
Just keep reading.
Yeah.
Now, do you homeschool year-round, or do you? Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. So what does year-round look like?
I agree. So easier. Yeah. So during this what do you call that, school year, we have the co-ops that we go to and the little groups, and we have Taekwondo and all this fun stuff. But in the summertime, we have the school just set up regularly. So like they have to do their math, they have to do their reading, they have to do their writing, and we have to read a book together. That's kind of like,
keep it simple.
Yeah, just keep it simple, but still every day they have to do that. In the mornings is school, in the afternoons is play.
I'm doing it right.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I have this checklist, like once this gets checked off, then the time is yours. You know, and what I love is that my kids are having a childhood. You know,
that's big.
That's just
very
play.
Important.
They know how to play. And if I say, okay, you know, we struggle with electronics. They're electronics junkies. We all are. You know, our family culture is the computer. Or, but I found that in the evenings, especially afternoon, evening, where are the neighbors? Let's go find the neighbors. Neighbors are home from school. And the great thing is that the neighbors, because they want to play with my kids, they're getting their homework done faster.
So they can play. Nice.
Which is
That's
fantastic.
nice for everybody. There must be this big, great unity in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
good.
So one lesson in math. And what math do you use?
So my favorite is Moving with Math. It's just a workbook style, and it has at the very, very top, it has the principal that's teaching, and then the worksheet. I mean, just problems below. And that's what I've used with all of my children. It's really cheap, but it's really easy, and it goes through all of the different principles of the math. Okay. So that's what I use for math.
So we've used teaching textbooks. It's the same thing. Idea. Yeah, they have a workbook, and then they also have the CDs online. During the regular year, I mean, we're still doing. I had kind of a interesting thing happened with math last year. Tried a different program, didn't like it, went back to teaching textbooks. But so during the year, it's one lesson per day. So when you hit, because I was just reading the Harding's book in Georgia. So when you hit, okay, they're done with their math, do you just start the next level, no matter where they are?
So
do you
like
take a break for grade level?
Like they've done fractions and they're going on to decimals. Is that kind of what you're asking?
No, like if you have, does Moving with Math have grades? Like this is third grade math. This is
they have A,
math.
B, C, D. So yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So you just go from one to the other. You don't really worry about, well, they don't learn this until 7th grade.
Yeah.
You
So
just learn
that's
it
a
when they
big
learn it.
misdemeanor, I think, in the whole world, is that we have to teach our kids like this, and they have to have holes in their education. There's no holes in education. Education is what we learn step by step by step. It's organic, right?
Mhm.
And so if they forget something, like my son Tennyson, he's 17 years old, and
Tennyson,
yeah.
love it.
Yeah. So he is 17, and he's taken a break from math for about a year. And I said, no, let's get back to it. I think because he's really good at math and he really loves it. So I said, go back to it. So he's in an algebra. I don't know which level. It's probably algebra normal. And he went back to it and goes, okay, Mom, I really forgotten this. So you have to help me. So I helped him. We figured it all out. We got all of the math things out. And then he's on his own again. I mean, it took maybe 2 days of review, and he was off again. But he's finished another book, and now he's he's on to the next one. So yeah.
And I've heard that really, well, my best friend's a middle school, high school math teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she has said everything the average person needs to learn about math, they learn by 6th grade. Yeah. After that, it's mostly theories. But, once you get through 6th grade, you got the addition, the, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Yeah. And beyond that, it's how far do you really want to go? Mm-hmm. Because I remember, bless her heart, Miss Milnes, I still remember her name. I walked into her pre-calculus class, and I was a senior in high school, and I didn't need it to graduate. And for some reason, she had it in her mind that I was the troublemaker, and she said, I want you right up front. And I was like, what'd I do?
Why?
I mean, I was sort of a, keep low profile
mm-hmm.
in class. I mean, I was outgoing and friendly, but just as far as in class. And she just, I want to keep an eye on you and everything. So I just walked out and I dropped the class. Yeah. I was like, I don't know.
I put myself through this torture.
But I deprived myself of learning because of that.
Yeah.
And so I never did pre-calculus. I skipped that year, and then I did college algebra, and then I was kind of done. Mm-hmm. So, in that situation, it's kind of sad that, maybe I would have. I mean, I always had sort of an I'm bad at math mentality, but that made it even worse, to walk in and have that be put on me right away. So when we talk about education, and we talk about the experiences that children have, how do you combat that when they're in your home and you're the primary person? Like with your son, okay, let's go back to math. What if he had said no way, or what if it had been too difficult? How do you combat that?
That's a very good question. So with math, it's easy for me because I was a mathematics engineer.
I know who can tutor my kids.
So I love math, and I think math is really easy, actually, all the way through geometry and algebra. Anyway, after that, I've forgotten most of it. But in reality, you don't use math. That's really the flat line. You use the multiply, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. You use that a lot. Mm-hmm. But you don't use that everything after that. So with math, it's just fun to do. I find it fun. I said, look, we're just solving a problem. We solve problems every single day of our lives. This is just a numbers problem. The next problem is about relationships problems, and this is like, so it's just a problem-solving game. And what I love about math is that it's always exact. It's always exact. And when you find a problem and you missed a problem, you can go back and you can find where you make the error and you can fix it. It's in other things like biology or in chemistry. You don't always know. Yeah, it's kind of a guess thing there.
Which brings me to, you've created, or you're in the process of writing a geography book. Geometry. See, I said it. I even wrote it down. Geometry. Mentally, I cannot process. And I took geometry. Okay, geometry book. So you're writing a geometry book. Tell us about that.
Okay. So a long time ago, I got this introduction to numbers and numerology within the scriptures, and I thought, hey, this is fascinating, but it's taken me 10 years to okay, I want to know more about it. And I figured out that there are shapes that go with the numbers and within the geometry of it. So my question for myself was, if the circle represents the number 1, and the triangle represents the number 3, and the square represents the number 4, what's number 2? Do you have a clue?
Well, it would sort of be a triangle too.
Yeah, it could.
I mean, it's in that. I have no idea.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't think that way. My brain thinks in the abstract, not the finite.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to know if there's a shape for the number 2, I've got to find it.
Okay.
So I went on a hunt and I went on a search and I looked and looked and looked. And one day I was at Eugene Livingston's seminar, and it was in the year 2001, I think, probably. And she had this guest speaker come up and she says, okay, here's what the number 1 looks like. And she drew a circle. And here's what the number 2 looks like. And it's 2 circles interacting like this. And then here's the number 3, and here's the number 4, and then we talked about the meanings of each of those, and I went, oh, this is my answer. I was so excited. So ever since then, I have been studying, and my favorite book, if you want to study like really in depth and it's kind of deep, is what's it called? The Beginner's Guide to Constructing the Universe. It's a really great book.
Beginner's Guide to...
Yeah, it's a great book. So yeah, I decided to write it, and as I started teaching it and as I started sharing it with everybody, I realized that, hey, this is great. This has got the creation stories in here, or the scripture stories are here. My life story is in these numbers. And sequential, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because we count, we say A, B, C, D. We don't say A, D, B, right? There is a sequence to things that we do. And we don't teach that very often in the world. No, there's a real true sequence to the way things work. And so when I realized that there was a sequence in this learning idea, and learning mathematics, and learning in everything actually, that I got excited. So I wrote a book about circles, and I wrote a book about the Vesica Pisces. This little symbol right here is called the Vesica Pisces. And once I finished those books, I realized that, hey, everybody doesn't get it. You're going way too deep too fast. Let's backtrack and do the overview. Gotcha. And so that's what I'm doing now, is I'm doing that overview of, let's just talk about the circle. And so the point, that's the most important thing, is the point, or the center. Everything has a center. Everything could not exist without a center. And so that's where we start. You start with the center. So I have this little book. So it starts like this right here. So we have a point, and then God opens up his compass and he makes a big circle around that, around himself. And basically, he creates the universe, right? The universe means, in the terminology, universe means one turn. So isn't that interesting? It does. Yeah.
I never knew that.
So I had so much fun studying the Greeks and how they did it, and then I went into studying the Romans and how they studied it, and which led me back to the Egyptians, which led back to the Hebrews. So now I'm studying the Hebrews and how they learned math.
Fascinating.
And it has been a joy. It is a joy. So I have this little picture of the universe, and how the universe is just in that circle, and it continues to expand and expand. And scientists is even proving it, right? The universe is growing. Yeah. And the law of the circle says you have equal expansion in all directions. And so it's equally expanding in all directions. So why can't we within ourselves equally expand in all directions? We're not just a scientist and a mathematician and a mother. We are everything. And when we grow one way, we grow in all ways.
Oh, I love that. And, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about how, and I love this because this is your passion and not my passion, but both are useful to the world. And we were talking about the fact that the world, and I think why people feel the pull to homeschool, is that the world needs like specialists in fields, people who are passionate, not generalists in everything, because when you have that passion, it inspires you to learn more and more and more and more. And I'm a learning junkie. I mean, I'll tell you, I bet the stack of books next to your bed is this high, and it's eclectic, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I have like everything from Jeff Walker's new book, Launch, to Self-Esteem, to, I mean, it's all over the place, plus my Kindle, which is just, got everything
filled with stuff.
And so, so what would you say to a homeschool mom about, because this is what the advice that I give when people come to me and they say, okay, I'm thinking of homeschooling. One of the major things I said is, if you want to homeschool, you have got to develop your own love of learning. You have got to go back in that love of learning phase, and you've got to understand that all the things that you missed the first time, you're going to learn this time. So everything that I'm learning about history, the Revolutionary War, I know so much more about Benjamin Franklin, about Patrick Henry, about all these, because I'm reading it for the second time. And I think that's why so many people are feeling that pull to homeschool, because they did have that gap in their education, and so they are craving learning it.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a gap, but we didn't learn, right? We
True.
learned, the teacher sat at the front of the room and she said, this is what you're going to learn, and this is on the test, and this is how you're going to do it, and this is what you need to do. If we had a question or if something was interesting to us, no, we don't have time for that. We've got to go on to the next subject, or we've got to do this, right? And so we learned to block out those ideas and learn to block out those questions.
It's all about dates and
yeah,
facts.
exactly. And when something was curious to us, we hid that curiosity. We no longer have that curiosity within us. And so we have to bring out that curiosity again and say, hey, I really am interested in the Revolutionary War. Tell me more about Benjamin Franklin. All I know is this, you know. Tell me about his life. Tell me about his love. Did you know he was a scientist as well as a printer? I mean, you know, things like these are just some fabulous, fun things to learn.
Andrew Flaxman has created Classic Insights, which is on Wisdom Window as well, which they're programs that are exactly that. It basically says this is what Benjamin Franklin had to teach us, not just who he was, but what we can really learn from him. Because often we just say, oh yeah, the founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence. We all know the date on that because we just celebrated it, you know. And so but for me it was always the war, you know, the War of 1812 was from this date to this date. The Declaration of Independence was signed on this date. But never the what happened. And so when you go into homeschooling, and I'm sure that you do this because we were kind of talking about it, you go into a lot of simulations and experience what they experienced at a different level. I know with Thomas Jefferson Education and with the Leadership Education Mentoring Institute, they do a lot of simulations week. I just had a bunch of kids from our homeschool group go to that. So it's more involvement in what really happened versus just that it happened. And that kind of inspires more passion. Because there are so many times where I say, I didn't know this, and I know I learned it. I know I learned it, but I don't know it. It's not something that I retained. It was just that conveyor belt.
I almost think of it as like your head's being cut off, right? In public school, we're being told, well, in most learning situations, actually, it's not just school, but we're being told and we're being put in our brain and all this knowledge. But until we can bring that knowledge into our heart and bring it into understanding, it's not ours. It's somebody else's. That's true. Right? It's outside of us. It's just the knowledge that can come in and out of your ears. But until we can bring it to understanding and then we can become that, then and so that's how I teach it. I said, this is just knowledge, or are we going to bring it to understanding and then to become?
Awesome. Well, the homeschool movement, and I do see it as kind of a movement.
Oh, absolutely.
It's gained a lot of new members in the last few years, and it's no longer like you said. Your friends were kind of weird that were homeschooled. The number one question I get asked is, "What about socialization?" Which I just throw out the window because my kids are happily socialized. And I maintain that if my kids are weird, they probably would have been weird anyway. You know, in school, out of school, they might just be weird. I'm weird, so exactly. What is the type of homeschool mom? What is a homeschool mom like? Trick question, right? No, what are they like? What are homeschoolers? I mean, because obviously we're very different. Our approach to things are different. I have 2 kids. You have 8. You love geometry. I love, more of like the like what I love to do with my kids are mom lessons, where we literally will mind map a vacation. What do we want to do on this vacation? And we, mind map the whole thing, and then we go and do it, or something like that. But my mom lessons are off the cuff, not planned. Usually have something to do with a principle I've learned in sales or marketing, something like that. But what have you seen? Is there a typical homeschool mom?
I would say no, not at all. Not at all. I think there are some similarities in us. Like, I remember one mother says, "Hey, I'm pulling out my kids for the," and I'm like, "Yay, welcome to the club!" It is a club. It's fun to be a homeschool mom. It's like being a soccer mom. We're gonna go to the soccer mom, and we're all different. And there's so many different reasons. But it's grown 25% in Utah Valley. Homeschooling has grown 25% in the last year. Yeah, it's huge.
Wow.
And it's so great that the internet is available so that we could be able to look for places and become part of the groups and ask the questions that we have. And yeah, socialization still is the number one. But the number two, I think, is really close, is the, I don't have the patience to do that.
Yes.
And how do you get that? And I'm like, okay, how did I gain my patience? Do I even have patience? I don't know if I have that much patience. But I've also thought, hey, yeah, it was through homeschooling that I learned my patience.
That's true. And you know, honestly, I had my kids in school. That was harder for me. The pickup, the drop off, oh my gosh, Mom, I have to have 3,000 Q-tips tomorrow for so-and-so's class. Oh, Mom, by the way, my Australia project is due in 24 hours. That was chaotic for me.
Hard,
if we want to learn about Australia, we can take as much time as we want to learn about Australia. So to me, the chaos of the last few weeks of school, where you have this and activities and all this stuff, I think it's easier. I think you need less patience for homeschooling than you do for having your kids in regular school, based on my experience.
And how many different teachers that you're pleasing. And if they're in high school, then you've got 6 different teachers that you're trying to help and get.
And all of the homework. I mean, your kids are gone from you for 7 hours a day, and then they come home and they have tons of homework. I mean, I even work part-time, and I spend more time with my kids because I can. Yeah. And there isn't the homework because so for me, it's not about the patience. I'm not really a particularly patient person, and I haven't learned it in 2 years of homeschooling either, but I'm not particularly patient. I have systems. I have systems that I say, this is our system. Yes. 1 lesson of math per day, 1 lesson of language arts. Then I know they're marching toward that goal. Yeah. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, we've got to do 2 hours of math. It's let's just do 1 lesson in math and build on that. So
that's exactly what I do. In fact, I put up a chart on the wall that says their chores, their getting dressed and making their bed. We call it the big 5. And then we have their schoolwork, and then their schoolwork is like broken out into math and science and reading. Math together, school, reading, and writing. And then the next one is their bedtime chores, or stuff like that. And they have to mark them off before they go and play. And once they're marked off, then they get to go play, and they know that. And I can see, just look on the wall. Oh, they haven't done their math. Oh, they haven't done their piano. And it's all together. It's like how the system works, right? You have to do this in order to get this, and in order to get this, and breakfast comes before lunch. Things like that. Well, and it's all one whole picture, rather than, okay, now it's school, and now it's your chores, and now it's family time, and now it's playtime.
Yes. Yeah. And I found, this morning my daughter slept in until 8:30. We went out of town over the weekend, and so we were all kind of tired. She slept in until 8:30, wandered downstairs. I was getting ready to leave to come here, and she had her math book. She was eating her cereal and doing her math. Mom, which is this, 9:15 or 8:15 or whatever, And so I was able to just kind of help her as I was getting breakfast. I was able to teach her a concept, and then walk away. So they now know. They're kind of they're homeschooled, where they take responsibility for their own stuff. So I love that, because they even more and more every day. And if they stay up reading till 11 o'clock at night, ooh,
great,
awesome, bonus. I'm not going to complain. I actually had a really funny thing happen a couple of years ago. My son was 8 when we started homeschooling, and I said, okay, I will pay you a penny per page for the books you read, but they have to be chapter books. They can't be like, little
Dr.
golden plain or whatever. Yeah, exactly. They have to be chapter books. And we had sat down and read like Fablehaven with him, and we were trying to get him inspired. Like, look, there's a whole world out there, and you can just, And so we said a penny per page, but the pennies would go towards additional books that we would buy for you. And he has a Nook that my dad gave him. So, well, we hadn't, we moved, and this year was chaotic, so we hadn't paid him. And so I said to him, go and calculate everything that you've read, because he's been going with my mom to the library every single week for the last 6 months. We owed him $350. That's a lot of pages, but he is a very avid reader. Yeah. And so, that's perfect. So I said, okay, he really wanted a DS and had been doing a lot of things to make it happen. And I believe that, and I told him, I said, what are some things that you need to do to make this happen? What are things that I would ask you to do every single day? So, feed the dog, do your laundry, unload the dishwasher, doing all these things. And he had been really diligent about doing all these things and just kept, so I said, okay, that's what we'll do for you. We'll get you that. And so teaching them and having time to teach them to be able to earn what they want. And speaking of the universe and the whole law of attraction, how to bring things into their life that will educate them. So that's what I'm working on right now, is teaching them, okay, I read this book, or I'm reading a book called Writing Down Your Soul. And it's write, but write just stream of consciousness what you want to happen in your life. And that process brings it to pass. So, so I like to teach them crazy things like that, so that they can be crazy and, run the world and all of that.
Yes. So, my son I taught the same things to my son, and he's like, this law of attraction or the law of the vacuum and all these kinds of things. And he's like, all right, he gets gung-ho and gets so excited about it, and then it doesn't work exactly the way he wants it. And so he goes back and he goes, it doesn't work.
Does he go and complain to Leslie Householder?
Yeah. No, he doesn't. He complains to me.
And then you call it out.
Yeah, then I'll call it. So yeah, but he's learning. He goes, Mom, I wish I'd never known this stuff. Like he's trying to go outside of the house and trying to run his own world and stuff right now. But he went out, he did it, he made a whole bunch of mistakes, and now he's coming back and he's saying, I do like what you teach me, Mom. I thought you were weird and I thought you were crazy and nothing ever worked, but now I think you're right, and now I want to be with you. So it's really been a
and he's the 20-year-old. Yeah. I always maintain that kids don't really like you until they go out in the world and they see how awesome their mom really is, and they realize, wow.
Even if she's really weird and different and strange.
Your weirdness. I'm right there with you. So how can people find you? You have a huge conference coming up in August that you run every year, so that's exciting, and that's in Utah, in Utah County.
It's in Utah County. It's at UVU, and you can find that at LDS homeschoolconference.com. So the whole homeschool and conference is written out, but ldshomeschoolconference.com. You can find it there. Register. It's going to be great. We're so excited. We have some really great speakers coming in, and the DeMills are coming to be the keynote speakers on Saturday. Yeah, I'm excited.
Who are some of the other speakers coming?
So other speakers are Chris Heimeldinger, who wrote Tennis Shoes Among the Nephites. He's going to be the keynote speaker for the youth. There's going to be, I can't think of his first name, Lloyd Anderson, I think it's Lloyd. Anyway, he's painted like 15 different pictures that he's going to bring from the restoration of the country, and so that's really exciting. We're going to have him come in and speak, and then we're going to have Ann Washburn is going to come and teach us about body language, and then another one big for homeschoolers is Diane McLean is going to come in and talk about socialization. So that'll be a really big one.
The socialization part.
And she touches on it great.
Do you have kids attend the conference as well, or is it mostly adults? What's the age group?
It's the ages 12 to adults.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a youth conference going on upstairs in the presidential suites while we're having the adult conference going down. And then the youth will join us for the Anderson presentation and for the DeMille's keynote.
Okay. Yeah. So the youth is
12 to 18.
Oh, 12 to 18.
Yeah, it's 12 to 18, but sometimes the adults like to sneak in. I do. I love the teenage classes a lot more than I do the adult classes personally.
Yeah. High energy.
Oh, it's very high energy, and we're going to have so much fun in the youth conference this year. We're bringing in a guy to teach us. He's calling the round robin. So we're going to be doing leadership games in a round robin. So we'll do all different groups and doing that. And that'll be really fun. And there's a dance. There's also a talent show going on Friday night that you're welcome to do it too. Come on, you can do a talent, right? Actually, and so yeah, it's just going to be lots of fun. They're making some videos. We just got up our first video today on the youth conference. The theme is lay hold on every good gift. So everybody's getting gifts, and we're talking about the different types of gifts that you can give. And the kids are made these promotional videos, and they're like giving the gift. Don't open it until it's over. Don't open it, So it's like that. That's the promotion, is don't open your gift. So it's really fun.
So LDS homeschoolconference.org.
No, .com.
.com. LDShomeschoolconference.com. And what are the dates on that?
That's August 8th and 9th.
August 8th and 9th. incredible speakers. It'll be a lot of fun, and you'll have vendors as well.
Oh yeah, we have great vendors coming in.
Perfect.
We have some really amazing technology things that are coming out of Adobe this year,
perfect.
and some things that are going to make homeschooling a lot easier. And then we have packages of just like the top 50 books to read and the top 50 videos to watch that are clean, and just so yeah,
Huge
we've
support.
got some great vendors this year.
I went I think a couple of years ago. I think it was down in at the conference center down in Provo.
Okay, yeah, that's the UHEA conference.
Okay, so it was the UHEA.
Yeah.
And we got Sonic Dad. Have you ever seen
yes,
Sonic Dad?
Sonic Dad?
Yeah, it was so fun and
they are
so
amazing.
inexpensive.
Oh,
I mean, great for like little projects to do with kids and
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
Well,
my husband and sons love that
Yeah.
stuff too. It's like making airplanes and making boats and making stuff. It's just
things that fling around the house.
yeah,
It's really
that's a great.
my husband and son had a lot of fun with
Yeah,
that.
good.
Well, thank you so much for coming in, and I know that it can be intimidating to homeschool. It can, and so definitely check out Tresta, follow her on Facebook, come to the LDS Homeschool Convention or conference so that you can see all of the different things that people are doing. The biggest piece, I think, is to just let people know out there that if they want to do this, they're not alone.
Oh yeah.
Even if they live in the middle of even if they live in a circle in the middle of 20 acres in the middle of nowhere, there are online resources, and there is a lot of support that's out there. So if you're looking for that in your life and you're feeling that pull, there is a huge support system for you. So thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to continuing to stalk you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
It's been great. Thank you for the privilege.
You're welcome. We hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time on Wisdom Window.
Goodbye.
Bye.